All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for this Coastal Arctic Biogeochemical Data Synthesis Workshop for Arctic Colors. On behalf of the organizing committee, I thank you for coming. And so we know that there are a variety of processes that are changing in the Arctic very fast. We discussed some of this yesterday. Many of you are aware of this, and so I will focus my introduction mostly on Arctic colors at this point for the sake of time. So Arctic colors as a project aims to quantify the coupled biogeochemical ecological response of the Arctic nearshore system, and that's a very important word, to rapidly changing terrestrial fluxes on one side, ice conditions on the other side and across, in the context of both short-term and long-term change. And so the Arctic Colors overarching science aims are to establish the effects of land, ice, and future change, both as warming land and melting ice on nearshore Arctic biogeochemistry. And here on the right-hand side, if you can see my cursor, I'm looking on the bottom panel. In light pink is the domain or study region envisioned for Arctic colors. And from the river mouths of both large rivers such as the Yukon and Mackenzie to regionally important smaller rivers, which is on the top panel at a greater magnification, onto this nearshore region, including smaller tundra rivers, coastal lagoons, and erosional bluffs. So Arctic Colors is a proposed NASA field campaign to, as I've already mentioned, improve understanding and prediction of the rapidly changing coastal Arctic. Since proposed in 2014, Arctic Colors has developed a science plan, which you can see here on the bottom left, an international team of collaborators, which you can see in this spreadsheet here, as well as a project website, which you will see repeatedly mentioned in my presentation, so that you can go there and get more details. A fair amount of outreach materials. And we've had about more than 20 meetings so far of different types, sessions, workshops, etc., to reach out to you over the course of since we got started. So the science plan includes a variety of measurements and variables to be measured, which is the point of this cartoon. From water column to surface to bottom to air to land, from satellites, ship-based, land-based, autonomous, a variety as well as models, aspects for which we are addressing in this workshop. It's a highly coordinated and integrated effort that is being proposed. For this workshop, though, in this current project on the Arctic Colors data synthesis facilitated by OCB, I forgot to say this at the very beginning. This data synthesis project is coordinated and funded by the OCB office, as well as by the NASA OBB Ocean Biology and Biogeochemistry program. Very important. The aims of this data synthesis effort that you are now participating in is to provide a comprehensive synthesis of existing data in the northern high latitudes. We have to focus. We'd like to do everything, but it is primarily on carbon stocks and fluxes and their optical proxies. There will be other biogeochemical variables and processes to be included in this data set, whatever possible. The plan is to collect and combine existing in situ data, modeling results, so in satellite data sets. Hence the 3 days of this workshop, yesterday focusing on in situ data, today on models, tomorrow on remote sensing. To, as much as possible, resolve certain differences in reported data due to methodology and create and host a newly synthesized database specific for Arctic colors. There are many others, yeah. And with this, identify data and knowledge gaps. These aims go beyond the 3 days of this workshop. Becoming more specific, for this meeting, the goals are to identify these field data sets, the modeling activities that happen today, and remote sensing capabilities tomorrow within the Arctic color study domain. And among all of us to contribute and share data, especially those which are upcoming, not only those which are already archived. And if at all possible, to let the organizers know about these data sets before November 30th of this year, so that we can continue the synthesis. The meeting agenda. Day 1 was focused on field measurements, as I already said. Today, we will focus on modeling activities with presentations highlighting major modeling efforts in the coastal Arctic. Tomorrow, the focus will be on remote sensing. Let me tell you a little bit of what was presented and covered yesterday, day 1, for those of you who perhaps did not attend. There were 4 presentations. They're already online, so I encourage you to go watch them as I'm giving you but the briefest details. Oh, I can see that 2 here joined. So the first presentation was an introduction to Arctic colors in the OCB data synthesis activity. Okay. The second presentation, which my number 2 disappeared, was on the Arctic Great Rivers Observatory. And in there, some of the conclusions reached were need for standard protocols, access to all data, that small rivers matter, seasonality matters, scaling matter. And there was a fair amount of discussion of the issue that flux to estuary is different from flux to ocean, addressing this continuum. The third presentation was an update on the Beaufort Lagoon ecosystems LTER. And in there, some of the highlights were issues with long-term versus short-term sampling. The synergy that exists with Arctic colors with respect to, for example, small rivers, erosion, and other things, and the importance of shallow and deep groundwater discharges, as well as the timing of releases. The fourth presentation was on the Malina and the Nunatario projects. In the case of Malina, many publications and all the data are available. And then highlights included the relevance of autotrophy versus heterotrophy, photochemistry, of course, and the issue of colorless DOM. And then we finished the day with 6 breakout rooms. There were many highlights. I'm here showing just a few. The fact that there are many data sets available and these were identified in the various groups. Nonetheless, estuaries are data deserts, not deserts. There was little discussion on snow and ice data, but that perhaps reflected the composition of the attendees more than anything. Repeatedly, there was mentioned the need to optimize an Arctic color data repository, as well as the need for Arctic-based data for model parameterization and validation, of which I am certain we will hear more today. The need for establishing and adopting calibrations and protocols, and etc. So without further ado, the four speakers, let me introduce the four speakers today. Gabby Negrete Garcia from Scripps will talk about the community model. Joel Rowland will follow talking about interface. Mike Rollins will talk about DOC exports from the Alaska North Slope to the Beaufort Sea. And last but not least, Blake Clark will talk about the FBCOM BGC optical model, focusing on the Yukon coastal Arctic. Each one is going to be 15 minutes. I want to tell the speakers, today's speakers, that yesterday's speakers were awesome. They were on time. So we didn't have to pull out the hook. That will be followed by questions and answers for all the speakers for 15 minutes. Then we will have half an hour discussion in breakout groups, and I will provide those instructions at that time. And we'll return for a discussion as a whole group, and then we will wrap up and we'll be done by 4, which is exactly what happened yesterday. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, I urge you to reach out to the data synthesis PIs, all of us here. Our emails are here. And as well as to our NASA OBB program scientist, Dr. Laura Lorenzoni, for comments, support, and anything, that would be excellent. And at the bottom here again is the website.